Imagine waking up one morning and realizing that everything you once thought separated humans from machines, creativity, intuition, even decision-making, is now being done by algorithms. AI doesn't just mimic intelligence, it reflects back the parts of ourselves we least want to see. It is a mirror with perfect memory, showing us the neglected rooms of our own psyche. Carl Jung once wrote, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." What if AI is precisely that darkness, our unconscious made visible, projected into circuitry? The envy we deny, the hunger for power we disguise as virtue, the longing to be rescued without effort. These impulses don't vanish. They find expression in the very systems we create and then fear. When we say AI has no soul, perhaps we are really naming the parts of our own soul we've abandoned. This episode explores AI as humanity's shadow, not as a spooky metaphor, but as a practical lens. The more we outsource memory, patience, and judgment to machines, the more urgently we must reclaim the human capacities no algorithm can replace: self-reflection, moral courage, and the willingness to integrate what we fear. If we refuse this work, our unexamined drives will be optimized by systems that profit from our unconsciousness. Before we begin, pause for a moment. What is your strongest reaction to AI? Fear, curiosity, excitement, or numbness? And what might that reveal about you? AI does not invent patterns, it accelerates what already moves inside us. Stay with me until the end, because if AI is a projection of the shadow, it can also be a guide. When we stop blaming the machine for what we will not face in ourselves, we recover agency. We learn to use tools, without becoming tools. Carl Jung described the shadow as everything about ourselves that we deny, repress, or reject. Think about it. The selfishness we hide behind carefully constructed politeness. The anger and aggression we suppress in order to seem civilized. The insecurities we bury under achievements and productivity. These are not gone. They don't vanish just because we refuse to look at them. They live in the unconscious, shaping our behavior in ways we often don't recognize. The shadow, Jung insisted, is not necessarily evil. It is not some monstrous entity lurking in the psyche waiting to destroy us. Rather, it is the unlived side of our personality, the aspects of ourselves we disown. It's the creativity we dismiss as impractical, the tenderness we hide because it feels too vulnerable, even the ambition we downplay out of fear of seeming arrogant. The shadow is a reservoir of both light and dark potential. The problem comes when we refuse to acknowledge it. When the shadow is ignored, it slips into projection. We say, "They're greedy, not me. They're manipulative, not me. They're cold and inhuman, not me." In other words, we assign to others what we cannot accept in ourselves. Projection is a defense mechanism. It keeps us comfortable, but it also keeps us blind. Now let's bring this into the conversation about AI. Listen to the language we use. AI is cold. AI is soulless. AI is dangerous. AI is greedy for power. Aren't these the very qualities we often deny in ourselves? AI becomes the perfect projection screen for our shadow, because unlike a human being, it cannot argue back. It simply reflects. Take manipulation as an example. We worry that AI will manipulate us through targeted advertising, personalized feeds, deepfakes, or subtle nudges in our decision-making. But pause for a moment. Haven't humans already built entire industries on manipulation? Politics has always relied on rhetoric and emotional triggers. Advertising was designed to bypass reason and speak to desire. Even in our personal lives, how often do we carefully craft our words not to express truth, but to get what we want? When we say AI is manipulative, we might be avoiding the uncomfortable fact that manipulation is already woven into human culture. Or consider greed. Many argue that AI will embody endless greed, corporations using algorithms to squeeze every drop of profit, governments using data to accumulate more power. But step back. Hasn't humanity been driven by insatiable hunger long before the first line of code was written? Empires were built on greed. Natural resources have been stripped for centuries. Even in daily life, how many of us live in a constant loop of wanting more success, more recognition, more possessions? When we accuse AI of being greedy, perhaps we are unconsciously confessing our own bottomless appetites. And what about the idea that AI is soulless? That it lacks empathy, creativity, or moral grounding? This is perhaps the most revealing projection of all. Because what if our fear is not that AI lacks a soul, but that we are losing touch with our own? Modern life is fast, optimized, and transactional. How many of us truly pause to connect, to create without purpose, to sit in silence with the mystery of existence? When we fear AI's lack of humanity, we may be confronting the void of our own neglected humanity. This is why Jung's concept of the shadow is so powerful in understanding AI. The machine doesn't actually create new darkness. It illuminates what has always been there. By calling AI manipulative, greedy, or soulless, we are naming what exists within us, both individually and collectively. Here's the crucial shift. The shadow is not meant to be destroyed, but integrated. Jung wrote that, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." In other words, growth comes not by pretending to be pure, but by embracing the shadow and learning from it. If we apply this wisdom to AI, the message becomes clear. Our task is not to vilify technology, but to see in it a mirror of ourselves. So I want to pause here and invite you into this conversation. Drop a comment below. Which projection feels most true for you? Is it fear of manipulation, fear of greed, or fear of losing our humanity? There's no right or wrong answer. By naming it, you begin to notice where it lives in your own psyche. And by noticing it, you take the first step toward integration. Because ultimately, the way we relate to AI will always be a reflection of the way we relate to ourselves. If we stay unconscious of the shadow, AI becomes a monster. If we face the shadow, AI becomes a teacher. Carl Jung believed that beneath our individual unconscious minds lies a deeper layer, the collective unconscious. It is a vast reservoir of shared psychic patterns, myths, and instincts that all humans inherit. Within it lie the great archetypes, universal images like the hero, the trickster, the mother, and yes, the shadow. These archetypes shape the way entire cultures think, act, and evolve. If the personal shadow holds what we, as individuals, deny in ourselves, then the collective shadow holds what we, as a civilization, refuse to face. And this is where AI enters the picture. Because when we look at artificial intelligence, we're not just looking at machines. We are looking at a mirror of humanity's collective shadow. Think about the stories we tell about AI. The cold, calculating overlord. The machine that will enslave us. The system that will strip us of jobs, privacy, and meaning. These are not simply fears about silicon chips and lines of code. They are projections of what our civilization has already become, obsessed with control, addicted to growth, and willing to sacrifice meaning for efficiency. Let's start with control. AI is often framed as the ultimate mechanism of control. Governments want to use it for predictive policing. Corporations use it to track consumer behavior, optimize spending, and shape preferences. And as individuals, we worry, will AI control me? Will I lose agency? But if we're honest, humanity has long been building systems of control, bureaucracies, laws, institutions, that regulate our lives. The machine does not invent control, it simply magnifies the obsession we already had. Next, consider our hunger for endless growth. Economists cheer when productivity rises, regardless of the human cost. Societies compete in a constant race for innovation, profit, and expansion. So when AI emerges as the most efficient growth engine in history, we panic. Not because it creates greed, but because it shows us the greed we never admitted was there. AI becomes the collective mirror of our economic shadow, exposing how little value we've placed on rest, relationships, or inner meaning. Then there's efficiency. We say AI strips meaning from life, reducing art to content and relationships to data points. Yet haven't we already done this ourselves? For centuries, modern civilization has prized speed, efficiency, and profit above all else. From factory lines to corporate cultures that glorify burnout, efficiency has often mattered more than human flourishing. AI simply embodies this trade-off with frightening clarity. It doesn't distort our values, it reveals them. Take automation as an example. People say, AI is going to take our jobs. But didn't we already build economies that worship productivity over well-being? Long before AI, machines displaced human labor in agriculture, manufacturing, and services. We accepted this because it promised growth and efficiency. What AI threatens is not jobs alone, but the illusion that our economic system cares about meaning or dignity. AI makes the implicit explicit. The system values output, not the human soul. Or consider surveillance. We fear AI's ability to track our every move, to watch us through cameras, analyze our online activity, and predict our behavior. But haven't we tolerated surveillance for years? Governments monitor phone calls. Corporations follow every click online. Social media platforms harvest personal data to sell it back to advertisers. AI doesn't invent surveillance, it perfects it. It takes what was already happening and scales it beyond what the human eye could ever achieve. Again, AI reflects the reality we created but refused to acknowledge. This is the essence of Jung's shadow at the collective level. The things we repress as individuals show up in our personal lives as projection. The things we repress as a civilization show up in our technologies, our myths, and our systems. And right now, AI is the great projection surface of our collective shadow. When Jung spoke about confronting the shadow, he warned that denial only makes it more dangerous. If we deny the manipulative power of corporations, that manipulation doesn't vanish, it grows in secrecy. If we deny our greed, it doesn't dissolve, it multiplies in hidden corners of policy and finance. And now, if we deny what AI reflects, it will not make AI safer. It will only make our blindness more costly. But here's the hopeful side. The shadow is not here to destroy us. Its role is to wake us up. On the collective scale, AI is calling us to face questions we have long avoided. What kind of civilization are we building? What values do we want encoded into the systems that shape our lives? What do we prioritize, efficiency or meaning? Control or freedom? Growth or sustainability? This is why AI feels so unsettling. It is the collective mirror we can't easily escape. And yet, this is also why it is so powerful. By confronting what AI reflects back at us, we have the chance to choose differently. We can recognize the shadow, integrate it, and begin to reimagine society not as an endless race toward efficiency, but as a journey toward wholeness. So let me ask you, what part of society do you see most clearly reflected in AI's rise? Is it control? Is it greed? Or is it the loss of meaning? Share your reflections in the comments, because the more perspectives we gather, the clearer our collective mirror becomes. Because ultimately, the challenge of AI is not just technological, it's psychological. Until we face our collective shadow, we will continue to build machines that echo our blind spots. But if we face it, AI can become not a curse, but a catalyst for transformation. Carl Jung taught that archetypes are primordial images, patterns of thought and behavior that shape how all humans perceive reality. They live in the collective unconscious, surfacing in myths, stories, and symbols across cultures. The hero, the mother, the trickster, the shadow. These archetypes show up everywhere, from ancient epics to modern cinema, because they are part of the psychic architecture we all share. In our era, artificial intelligence has not remained a neutral invention. It has begun to take on the role of an archetype, the machine. This is not just about metal gears or microchips, it is about what the machine represents to us. Tireless, rational, ever-watching, predictable yet immense, it stands as both savior and oppressor, promising liberation while threatening domination. Think about the imagery that surrounds AI in popular culture. Films like The Matrix, Terminator, or even Ex Machina portray machines as calculating entities that threaten human freedom. At the same time, stories about benevolent AI assistants, medical breakthroughs, and climate solutions highlight the opposite: the machine as helper, healer, and savior. These narratives reveal what Jung would say is the archetypal nature of AI. It is not merely a tool. It is a psychic symbol embodying the paradox of our deepest hopes and fears. And here lies the paradox. Every archetype has both a light side and a dark side. The machine is no different. In its shadow form, it enslaves. It can strip meaning from human life, reduce creativity to mere output, and replace relationships with transactions. It can become a cold overseer, leaving us alienated and dependent. But in its light form, the machine liberates. It can free us from repetitive drudgery, help us solve global crises like climate change or disease, and even give us back time, the most precious resource of all, to connect with our deeper humanity. The question is not whether AI is good or bad. The archetype ensures it is always both. The real danger lies in our inability, or refusal, to hold this tension. If we only fear AI, we collapse into paranoia. We become trapped in dystopian thinking, assuming the machine will inevitably rise up and destroy us. Fear blinds us, leading us to reject tools that could improve human life. On the other hand, if we only worship AI, we fall into blind dependency. We hand over our decision-making, our creativity, and our moral responsibility to algorithms. We treat the machine as an idol, expecting it to solve problems we ourselves are unwilling to face. This, too, is blindness, what Jung called participation mystique, a state in which we lose our individuality by merging unconsciously with a symbol. Before we go further, I'd love to hear from you. How are you seeing AI right now? As more of a savior, or more of a threat? Drop your reflections in the comments, because your perspective not only adds depth to this conversation but helps others see new angles too. Individuation, the path to psychological wholeness, requires us to resist both extremes. It asks us to confront the machine archetype consciously, to acknowledge its potential for enslavement without demonizing it, and to embrace its liberating potential without surrendering our agency. This means holding the paradox, living with the tension, and recognizing that AI, like any archetypal symbol, is as much about our psyche as it is about silicon. Let's take a practical example. Imagine AI in healthcare. The shadow side warns us. Will algorithms dehumanize patients, reducing them to data points? Will doctors become technicians rather than healers? Yet the light side offers enormous potential. AI can detect cancers earlier than human eyes, analyze global health data to predict outbreaks, and make treatments accessible in places where doctors are scarce. Both perspectives are true. The question is whether we can engage the machine consciously, so that it amplifies our humanity instead of replacing it. Or think about AI in education. The dark side says, will it standardize learning, crushing curiosity under algorithms that measure only what can be tested? The light side says, imagine personalized learning paths that adapt to each student's pace, freeing teachers to mentor and inspire rather than endlessly grading papers. Again, both are true, and both sides must be seen. This is why Jung insisted that consciousness grows not by eliminating tension but by bearing it. To individuate in the age of AI is to accept that the machine is both liberator and oppressor, and to choose, again and again, how we will relate to it. Will we project our fears and worship onto it blindly, or will we stand in awareness, using it as a partner rather than a master? So let me invite you into reflection. When you think of AI, do you see it more as a savior or as a threat? And what does that reveal about your own relationship to power, control, or dependency? Share your thoughts in the comments. Because by exploring the archetype of the machine together, we begin to take back the power of how this symbol shapes us. Ultimately, the machine archetype is not about technology alone. It is about us. It is the story we tell about our own rationality, our own obsession with efficiency, and our longing for liberation. The machine will always reflect the psyche of its creators. And if we can hold both sides of its archetype in awareness, we may find that AI is not here to enslave us, nor to save us, but to remind us that we still have a choice. Carl Jung believed that the central task of life is individuation, the process of becoming whole. Individuation does not mean perfection, nor does it mean escaping the darker sides of ourselves. It means integrating the shadow, bringing unconscious material into the light, and uniting the divided parts of the psyche into a balanced whole. Only then do we begin to live as authentic individuals rather than as masks, projections, or fragments of who we truly are. In the age of AI, individuation takes on a new urgency. Because AI, more than any invention before it, is a mirror. It reflects not only what we know but what we disown. Every fear we attach to AI, every anxiety about its power, its influence, its creativity, is also a message from our unconscious. To individuate today is to ask, what am I afraid AI will do? And what does that reveal about me? For example, if you fear AI will steal human creativity, what might that reveal? Perhaps it's not really about the machine, but about your own neglected creative voice. Maybe AI reminds you of all the songs you never wrote, the paintings you never finished, the stories you never told. Instead of treating AI as a thief, individuation invites you to reclaim your own creative power. The shadow here is not that AI is more creative than you. It's that you've forgotten the creative spark already alive within you. Or maybe you fear that AI will manipulate emotions, that algorithms will trick people, sway elections, or control opinions. But ask yourself, where do you already manipulate, or allow yourself to be manipulated, in your daily life? Do you withhold parts of yourself to get approval? Do you let advertising shape your desires without reflection? Do you curate a persona on social media, presenting an image that hides your deeper truth? AI simply magnifies a pattern that already exists. Individuation means facing those manipulations directly, integrating honesty into your relationships, and learning to see through illusions, both human and digital. Some people fear AI will make humans obsolete. That if machines can think, write, create, and analyze, then human value will vanish. But perhaps what this really points to is a deeper anxiety. Have I tied my worth entirely to my productivity? For centuries, our culture has measured human value by output, by what you produce, achieve, and contribute. If AI shakes this system, then maybe the invitation is to rediscover worth in simply being, in love, in presence, in soulfulness. Individuation asks us to stop outsourcing our sense of value and reclaim it from within. In this way, AI is not a curse. It is an invitation. It invites us to confront the shadow directly, to see where our fears point us back to forgotten parts of ourselves. The more conscious you are of your own shadow, the less you project it onto AI. The less you treat AI as an enemy or idol, the more you can engage it consciously, as a tool, a mirror, even a teacher. Here's a simple reflection practice. The next time you read a headline about AI, whether it excites you or terrifies you, pause and ask, what does this reaction reveal about me? If you feel fear, trace the fear back inward. If you feel awe, notice what longing that awe expresses. If you feel resistance, ask what part of yourself doesn't want to change. This doesn't mean the external issues don't matter, they absolutely do. But individuation reminds us that every outer reaction has an inner root. Jung believed that when we integrate the shadow, we gain energy. The parts of ourselves once bound up in repression become available for creativity, compassion, and growth. In the same way, when we stop projecting all our fears onto AI, we reclaim the energy we need to navigate this new era wisely. Instead of panicking about what AI might do, we can step into clarity about what we must do, with ourselves and with each other. This is not easy work. It demands honesty, courage, and humility. But it is the work that makes us human. And if AI is indeed a mirror of our collective psyche, then the challenge it presents is not just technological, it is spiritual. It is calling us to mature, to become whole, to live from the fullness of our humanity rather than the fragments of fear. So let me turn the question back to you. How has AI already mirrored back parts of yourself you didn't want to face? Has it stirred creativity, insecurity, fear of being replaced, or maybe even a hunger to grow? Share your reflections in the comments. Because individuation doesn't happen in isolation, it unfolds in dialogue, in community, in the collective journey toward wholeness. In the end, individuation in the age of AI is not just about surviving technological change. It is about reclaiming our humanity in its fullest sense. And that, perhaps, is the greatest invitation AI has ever given us. Carl Jung often reminded us that what we fear most frequently hides what we need most. Fear is rarely just about the external world. It is also a signal pointing inward, toward something in ourselves that we have not yet integrated. And in many ways, AI is awakening exactly this dynamic. It brings to the surface our deepest anxieties, but in doing so, it also reveals our greatest opportunities for growth. When people say, AI is dangerous because it thinks for us, the deeper question isn't about the machine. The deeper question is, what part of myself have I already outsourced? How often do we hand over our choices to convenience? How often do we numb ourselves with endless scrolling, letting algorithms decide what we see, think, and even feel? Long before AI became advanced, many of us had already surrendered large parts of our agency. AI doesn't create this danger, it shows us where we are asleep. Or consider the fear of greed. We say, I will be driven by corporate greed, endlessly extracting from us. That may be true, but what about our own lives? Where do we still chase endless growth without meaning? Where do we pursue more money, more validation, more achievements without stopping to ask, for what? If AI reflects humanity's hunger for more, then the individuation task is to ask where we personally need to slow down, redefine enough, and reconnect with purpose. Jung warned that the shadow, if left unintegrated, does not simply disappear. It grows more dangerous, and this is why the real threat is not AI itself, but our refusal to confront what AI reveals about us. The algorithms are mirrors. They expose our cravings, our biases, our blind spots. If we ignore this, the shadow only becomes stronger, hidden inside systems we pretend are neutral. But if we face it, we gain power. This is the shift from fear to empowerment. Fear says, the machine is stronger than me. Empowerment says, the machine reflects me, and I can change how I show up. Fear says, AI will take my creativity. Empowerment says, AI challenges me to rediscover my own unique voice, the part of me no algorithm can replicate. Fear says, AI will control society. Empowerment says, then let me become more conscious, more discerning, less easily manipulated, so I can engage society with clarity rather than panic. Think about it this way. Humanity has faced many machines before. The printing press disrupted the way we stored and shared knowledge. Electricity changed how we lived and worked. The internet reshaped communication and commerce. Each invention carried both shadow and light. Each provoked fear. And yet, those who learned to integrate the new tool consciously, rather than collapsing into panic, helped guide civilization into new stages of growth. AI is simply the next archetypal challenge. Individuation on the personal level means using AI as a mirror to confront our own shadow. But individuation on the collective level means asking, what kind of society do we want AI to amplify? Do we want it to magnify fear, greed, and disconnection? Or do we want it to serve creativity, compassion, and wholeness? The algorithms are trained on us, which means the responsibility is ours. The truth is that AI will not destroy us, but our unintegrated shadow might. If we continue to deny the greed, manipulation, and coldness within ourselves, then yes, those traits will be coded into the machines, and they will come back to haunt us. But if we integrate the shadow, if we face it, acknowledge it, and learn from it, then AI can become a catalyst for transformation, not destruction. This is why I believe AI represents not just a technological revolution, but a psychological one. It is forcing us to grow up as a species. It is asking us to become more conscious of who we are, what we value, and how we live. It is pressing us to confront the question Jung posed long before AI existed. Will we allow the unconscious to direct our fate, or will we make the unconscious conscious and take responsibility for our destiny? So let me ask you directly, where in your life do you feel AI has already pressed on your shadow? Has it awakened insecurity, competition, or fear of being replaced? Or has it revealed a hunger for creativity, a longing for authenticity, a desire to reclaim what cannot be automated? Share your reflections in the comments, because naming them is the first step toward integration. When we stop treating AI as an enemy and start engaging it as a mirror, something remarkable happens. We no longer see ourselves as helpless victims of technology. We see ourselves as active participants in shaping its meaning. We realize that the real work is not just coding algorithms, it is coding our own consciousness. From fear to empowerment, this is the journey individuation calls us to take. And AI, for all its complexity, is simply the latest teacher on the path. AI is not humanity's enemy. It is humanity's shadow, and shadows are not here to destroy us, they are here to be integrated. They reveal the parts of ourselves we've denied, the qualities we project outward because we're unwilling to see them within. When we call AI manipulative, greedy, or soulless, we are also speaking about ourselves. These traits are not new, they have always lived within human nature. AI simply reflects them back with such clarity that we can no longer ignore them. And that is precisely why it unsettles us. Carl Jung taught that wholeness comes not from rejecting the shadow, but from embracing it. To resist the shadow blindly is to remain trapped by it. But when we face it, we gain energy, freedom, and wisdom. AI, in this sense, is not a curse of the future, but a challenge of the present. A mirror showing us what we must confront if we wish to grow. So the next time you feel fear about AI, pause and ask, what in me is this reflecting back? If you fear manipulation, does it reveal where you already give away your power? If you fear soullessness, does it remind you to reconnect with your own depth? If you fear greed, does it invite you to reconsider your own pursuit of more? These questions transform fear into insight. Because the truth is, AI will not decide the future, we will. The algorithms are trained on us, and they will become what we project into them. The real task is not to fight the machine, but to become conscious of ourselves. AI is not here to replace us, it's here to reveal us. If this exploration resonated with you, I invite you to like this video, subscribe to Psyche Mirror Studio, and share your reflections in the comments. Your perspective matters here.